Welcome everybody to Tri-Cities Community Television Show. We have issues. Today we are talking to Councillor Craig Hodge of Coquitlam. Welcome Councillor Hodge to the show.
Yeah, good to see you again. Thanks for having me.
So the last time we met was actually just before you were running for election, and we sort of chatted for 30 minutes, and you had a couple of key issues that you were talking about, and congratulations on being re-elected.
Yeah, thank you.
Seems like we're getting common to say congratulations. So at some point you should get the four or 5-star pin for that. Kind of like Saturday Night Live, you know, you get your jacket at some point. So based on where we were before the election and now into this first period of the term, what has happened, and what can you give the folks an update about what's happening at Coquitlam Council, especially with your platform?
Yeah, so one of the things that I raised as concerns to me during the election that I thought would also be of concern to our residents, and the things that I talked about were public safety and housing and parks and rec, and making sure that we had good facilities. So those were the three things that I ran on, and I think it resonated with the public. Public safety has always been important to me, dating back to my days as a news photographer. So I was out on the street, so I saw our police officers, ambulance attendants, and firefighters at work, and realized the job that they have to do. It's a tough job, and it hasn't gotten easier. And so we've been trying to make sure, at least at Coquitlam, that we give them the proper resources to do the job. This last budget, we've approved 6 more RCMP officers. That was something that I felt was important, particularly in view of some of the recent shootings and other crimes that had happened in the city. I think that Coquitlam remains a safe city, but it's important that the residents feel safe. And so that's why I felt that it was important that we make an investment in our RCMP. The other thing that I'm really pleased about is something that I've been promoting for many years, was getting the fire department a medic unit, so that the fire department can respond faster in a smaller lightweight truck like a Ford 150 as opposed to a full-size pumper truck with a crew of 4 people responding to a medical call. One of the problems is, of course, if British Columbia Ambulance Service is delayed, you tie up a fire truck and 4 firefighters. Sending a smaller unit means they get there faster, and they're able to stand by and aid the residents. So we're going to see the launch of that later this year, and so I'm really pleased that the fire chief supported that, and really pleased that my council supported giving the financial resources to make that happen.
Yeah, so could you explain that to folks? Because even I'm slightly confused. I mean, I know when you get a 911 call for a medical emergency, I mean, right now the fire department is dispatched first, if they are able to. Is that how it works? Yeah,
the BC ambulance makes a decision based on the severity of the call, and the protocols have changed over the years. For a while it was only on the most extreme call, then it was, well, if we're going to be delayed. Now it's a case of, I think most of the calls, the fire department responds as well, and I think that's appropriate. You know, the nearest responder should get there, and I say that as a father of a paramedic who working here in Coquitlam. So I see the job that he and his colleagues do, but I also recognize that they're still under-resourced, and if we can assist in getting medical help there sooner, I think that's important. I think our residents just want to make sure that they get help as quickly as they can, and if we can get firefighters there to evaluate the situation, support our residents, that also means that they can contact the ambulance service if the situation is more severe than perhaps the dispatcher thought, and so I think that's going to be a big win for us. Some other cities are doing it. In fact, some cities are actually expanding the scope of work for their firefighters and actually getting them trained to a higher level so that they can actually start to administer more support while they're waiting for a BC ambulance.
But does that cost is that something the city takes on to give better service to their community, or is it just where's the cost breakout?
Yeah, and you know what? And this is absolutely one of the concerns, is because it is a form of downloading of costs from the provincial government. I mean, the ambulance service is paid for by the health system, and municipalities are struggling with more costs being passed on to them. In some communities, public safety can make up over 30%, 40% of the budget, and so we are definitely seeing downloading both on the first responder side, but also on the policing side. Policing are now being called to more and more calls than they ever were, particularly on mental health calls. I mean, we're fortunate we're going to have a CAR program here in Coquitlam where we will have a public health nurse teamed up with an RCMP officer. I think that will help, but we're still seeing RCMP officers tied up in emergency wards waiting to drop off a patient. And one of the things that really concerns me is we have a new mental health facility on Riverview, Redfish, a great facility doing great work in the area of drug addiction and mental health and drug addictions. But what's happening is, because it's voluntary when people are there, if they walk away, they're deemed to be a missing person. And because they're deemed to be a person at risk to themselves primarily, the RCMP have to treat them as a high priority missing person file. And so we've got 4 or 5 officers tied up just working cases out of a provincial health facility. So that's adding cost to our municipality. Great facility, but it's a provincial facility, and our taxpayers are footing some of the bill to help that facility run, and that's not appropriate.
So before, when we come back to the policing, because I know last time we talked, you kind of highlighted that in the Tri-Cities, Anmore is, I guess, part of that Tri-Cities, but the policing is shared between Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, Anmore-Barcara, right?
Yeah.
So when you get 6 more police officers on board, is that you're increasing your desire to pay more to get those services, or is it shared between them?
We do a sharing, so that I think it's about a 2/3, 1/3. So when we hire more officers, it's expected that Port Coquitlam will match with their share. But we're 2 independent councils, different priorities, different budgets, so it doesn't always line up the way it should. And so what we try to make sure is that we're not hiring more than they can match. But I can tell you that public safety is a priority in our community, and we're going to hire the officers that we believe our detachment commander needs.
Yeah, but I also know that there's a new pricing. Right now the RCMP has just gone through, I think, a second round of negotiations. I mean, they're a raise of 25,000 or on average. They're now almost par with municipal police forces. But that jump, you talk about 40% of a budget. I mean, that's a significant impact, plus 6 more people. Yeah. So how does that? At what point? Can we continue on this path, or where do you see us kind of, crime will never be zero, but it seems like it's going in a high cost trajectory with, are we measuring the impact as effectively as we can? Yeah,
and certainly in Coquitlam, RCMP doesn't make up 40% of our budget, but it is a significant amount of the budget. And you're right, their last contract, it was a 5-year contract, but they got 24%. They were underpaid in relationship to municipal police forces across Canada. They had some benefits that other forces might not have, but from a money side, they were underpaid. They've just negotiated a second contract, or at least the wage part of it's been settled, and we're going to be looking at another 8% over 2 years. So policing costs are going up, and I think that one of the things that I do say to our residents that we need to have the police officers, but we need to make sure that they're used efficiently. And one of the things that I've been working for at the provincial level, because I happen to represent local government on a round table that's reviewing the Police Act right now, and one of the things I've been advocating for is to give the powers to other agencies to do some of the work. For example, bylaw officers. Could we see bylaw officers doing more of the sort of routine policing? Could we actually hire public safety officers so that we're not necessarily relying on a highly paid professional police officer because I don't think they're required in all situations. And I think that's something that all local governments are looking at, is that how do we manage a very expensive but highly trained resource? How do we manage that? And are are there other alternatives, as I said, such as using bylaw officers to do some of that work, public safety officers, and certainly adding the mental health component to the police cars, I think will help to alleviate some of that pressure on the RCMP.
So if I live in Coquitlam, and since the election time, and I think it's been on the news, like we're seeing, we've seen a police officer lose his life. We're seeing sort of stories of cars going to the same place. Next thing you know, we've got gunfire. But how should the citizens of Coquitlam in this region feel from is crime getting worse, or is it just anomalies per these actions? And is that why you've increased the amount of police officers?
Yeah, certainly the death of Constable Rick O'Brien was an absolute tragedy that I think really hit home, and I think that helps to illustrate the danger of the job, and that when our officers show up for work each day, what they have to face. And I think that drew to a lot of attention to the public, because he was basically killed in a hallway of an apartment building right near Coquitlam Centre. And so we do know that there is a criminal element in our community, as there is in all communities. And I think that we have to make sure that the police have the resources to do the investigative work and the follow-up work on these shootings. A lot of these are drug-related, gang-related, but that takes a lot of resources to manage.
Yeah, and I guess the other one I was looking at is that when we look at crime, and you look at what's happening as well in the federal news, we're seeing a lot of this potential India influence. We've got gangs that we've never even heard of popping up. So I'm just wondering, in our world as Canada, and let's call us the Sleepy Hollow, the world is coming to our doorstep, and I just wonder for ourselves how you feel we're ready for this, or prepared for this, or do we need to do more to be ready?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're seeing the landscape of the country changing, where there's more guns in our country than there's ever been before. There is gang activity. I think there was always there, but a lot of it's more brazen. It's open, and that really concerns me when we see a shooting in the parking lot of the Cactus Club, which is basically in the parking lot of the Coquitlam Centre. So I think that's where we become really concerned from a public safety standpoint, is that the bad guys who know each other are bringing these activities right out into public streets and the parks. And so that's why we have to really work to contain this activity and make sure that the police have those resources. And it's changing, and we have to give them more resources. I'm a big proponent of using more closed circuit television, both for evidence gathering, and I think there may be a role for that in the future as well.
Yeah, how. I know when they do the fireworks, they used to do the fireworks display in Vancouver, they would temporarily bring in those cameras. So is that a municipal power to do that? That you can bring in something? Or
I'd like to see it in. And one of the things I've been advocating for is more camera. I know you get into the area of privacy and people's rights, but I've heard that you pretty much walk around Coquitlam or anywhere in a big city, and you're going to be picked up about 200 times, whether it's the bank machine, a doorbell cam, somebody's dash cam. So they're out there. But what we need to do is to get police access to it, and so to coordinate that. And we're also going to see now, of course, speaking of cameras, we're going to see body-worn cameras on police officers. That's coming. So we're going to see more use of cameras as an enforcement tool in policing, I think.
So just going to jump to some lighter topics. Like when you talk about community safety, there's traffic, there's sidewalks, there's lighted areas and stuff like that. Is there anything happening in the city of Coquitlam to improve that?
Yeah, one of the things I'm really pushing for right now is a sidewalk program. I want to see more sidewalks. We're doing a good job now on getting some of the multi-use pathways. We're getting more bike routes in. We're trying to put in delineators so that they separate cyclists from traffic. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we do need to make sure that we have sidewalks so that people can still get around their neighborhoods and get to transit. So I'm worried about that from a safety standpoint. I really like what the city's been doing with our crosswalks. We're doing a lot more of the crosswalks with the flashing yellow lights on them. I think that's improving safety. And I've been pushing for more police enforcement in the traffic safety, or in the traffic department. So more radar and more traffic monitoring in local streets and around parks and schools. That takes a lot of resources, and that's one of the reasons why I continue to support increasing police members.
Easy one, scooters. You see them all around the Coquitlam.
Yep.
How are they going?
You know what? I support the idea of multi forms of transportation, light transportation. I still remain concerned about the people just dropping them everywhere. I prefer a docking system. I like the concept, but I would prefer that if they're going to have the rental scooters, that when you're finished using them, you have to take them to a docking center, not just drop it in the middle of the sidewalk or somebody's front yard.
Yeah. You built a whole bunch of new parks?
We're doing great on the parks. Of course, everybody, I think you're familiar with the parks that we've been building up on Burke Mountain. One of the things that I was really happy about was a couple of years ago we did a sort of a parks blitz to go into the older parts of Coquitlam, refurbish their parks. So we've been working on parks. We're just about ready to open the new swimming pool. The former site of the Spaney pool has been completely redone, and so we'll be opening that this summer. Of course, we opened the Maillardville Community Centre last year, which replaced the old Place Maillard. So we've got that. The Y is now open, been very popular. Lots of people using that. So we're tonight I'm going to get my first preview of the new community centre at Town Centre Park. So I'm going to get to see that tonight for my first time. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And so I think we're doing a really good job of making sure that we provide these amenities. Our city is growing, and we know that as the city grows, we have to keep up with providing parks and recreation facilities. We're currently working on plans to open a big community centre on Burke Mountain. It will be our most expensive facility that we've ever built in the city, but it's needed. It's going to have a gymnasium, it's going to have a library, it's going to have a pool, so I think that will be very well received. And not so long behind that, we're also going to be looking at redoing Blue Mountain Park. So we're just in the consultation with the residents now about what they'd like to see in a new generated Blue Mountain Park. I think that'll be really good.
So when you drive by, I guess it's the new stands were being built right by
Lafarge.
Yeah. But I drove by there, and there was a big kind of panic around the community gardens. But I see a lot of construction going there. Yeah,
we're moving the community gardens temporarily across the street over by the swimming pool. That's to facilitate a major construction project that Metro Vancouver has underway. So they're running a pipeline right down Pipeline Road, named Pipeline Road, because that's where the pipeline has been since water was delivered to the Lower Mainland from the Coquitlam Lake. So
water pipeline.
It is a water pipeline. We're not doing anything other than delivering good, clean drinking water to the residents of the Lower Mainland. That is a major project that's going to take a couple years to complete. There has been some immediate impact to the park, and we hope that as soon as that section of the pipeline is completed, that we will actually use this as an opportunity to widen the road and then get some sidewalks in, get the trees replanted, and we'll bring the community garden back to somewhere in the main park. And I think in the middle of all of that, we'll probably also have an opportunity to rebuild the tennis courts that are right on the edge of the park there, and so that will be part of the next phase of rebuilding Town Centre Park.
Well, you need to name the sign tennis and pickleball.
There is certainly a need for pickleball. One of the things that I really worked for was to find a dedicated pickleball facility, and we changed Bramble Park up on the plateau to pickleball. It is very well used. It's been very well received. It's in an area that's buffered by power lines. It's near a school. It's got parking. It's got a washroom. So it's been really good, but one of the challenges is that pickleball is a growing sport, and it does, because of its noise, have impact on neighbors and neighboring homes. So we can't just put it in anywhere, and so we're having to be very conscious of where we place pickleball, and I'm hoping in the future we will find a spot where we can create either another new pickleball court or find something that can be converted. The Forum has been very popular up on Poirier. That's used for pickleball just about, I think, every day during the day, and so we have pickleball in there as well.
So you have a new school. I know you guys didn't really secure that, but you're responsible in some ways for the amenities around the school and the development. So that's on top of the Fremont or Burke Mountain.
Burke Mountain, you know, the school district has been a really good partner with us, and we do things that I haven't seen done in other cities. And I have councillors from other communities say, "What, you know, how is it you do this?" And we have a really good partnership with School District 43. Of course, it started with building of a soccer field next to Charles Best School. We developed Cunning's Field and have an agreement with them to use the gymnasium at Pine Tree, and they use our fields. We put a community center in the new Smiling Creek Elementary School, and of course, most recently, when Centennial Secondary School was rebuilt, we paid for the turf field that's next to the school. And when the new secondary school opens up on Burke Mountain, we're going to be providing the park next to it, which is going to include again another artificial turf field, a running track, and a couple of tennis courts. So it's really great when, certainly from a taxpayer standpoint, when you can share the facilities, so that, you know, the land is there, it's being used during the day for the schools, and in the afternoons and evenings we can use it for community use, and I think that's a win for the taxpayer.
So we'll just take a quick jump to arts and culture, because you have the new SkyTrain that goes right to the Lafarge Lake.
Yep.
Now I can remember the name. And I know I've been there for Canada Day and some of your festivals, and it seems like there's a lot more Destiny traffic coming off the end of that SkyTrain. Are you seeing that? Or?
Yeah, and you know what? The Town Centre Park has been just a fantastic facility for bringing cultural events in there. Talking to our Parks and Rec staff a couple months ago, they said it's booked every weekend. There's something going on. I think that adds to the vibrancy of our community, that you can go down and you can see different activities, not just Canada Day, Nerez Festival, all sorts of different festivals are happening there. The Scottish Games, Teddy Bear Picnic is coming up. So all of these events are now being held there. We're actually working on a fairs and festival strategy right now. But also now what we're looking at is how do we move some of these festivals and events to other parks in the city. So share the love, share the joy around the community. And I'm hoping that when Blue Mountain Park is redone, that we will put in some of the infrastructure there to have these events, such as putting wiring and plugs into the park and underground plumbing and things, so that when an event wants to use one of our facilities, that they don't have to bring in a lot of generators and stuff, that we can make this facility ready for them to move in.
I'm going to try some real quick fire soft questions,
okay.
But I think there's just because you've been in council for a while, right?
Yep.
And I just think I watch a lot of what's happening in the region. I'm not saying you're an expert, but I'm just curious. Housing affordability. I know you've created some, low-income or rental properties.
Yep.
So to kind of do twofold. One, the impact or challenge that has on you when you get sort of mandated from the province, and secondly, what percentage of I guess affordable or rental housing does the city of Coquitlam feel is necessary to support their younger residents within the city?
Yeah, and I don't know that there's a magic number on the percentage. I think that right now what we're really trying to do is promote rental. This was something that developers didn't build rental for years. I think that the mayor uses the figure, and he was here longer than me, that we went through 10 years when we built like none, other than maybe some basement suites. So right now we're seeing more and more rental being built. We're working through programs to incentivize rental. We're trying to get more housing built, and we need a full range of housing, not just apartments, not just single family. We need to have single family homes, yes, but we need to do more in the way of townhouses. We need more 3-bedroom type units for young families. We need density near our SkyTrain station. So we need that housing, particularly on the rental side. We were doing really well on our programs, and one of the things that we did really well in the city of Coquitlam was we ensured that the developers who were building the housing were contributing to the community, not dumping the costs of growth onto existing residents. And so those developers were making contributions to the YMCA, to the SkyTrain station here at Coquitlam Centre, and with the changes in the provincial government, they've now made it harder for us to negotiate to get money from the developers. In fact, the province has said, you know what, we want housing, which we all do, but they've just said if you're near a SkyTrain station or a transit station, you can start at 5 FAR, which means it's a formula for building, but what it means is more density. And we used to start a little lower and then say, if you want to increase your density, make some contributions to the city, to amenities, including making contributions to affordable housing. And so that is how we were building our affordable housing. Some cities like Burnaby and others will just say, for every building you built, a portion of it has to be below market. We prefer to sort of say, put it in your building or make a financial contribution, and then we'll use that money to put it somewhere else in the city, somewhere else where it may actually be needed more. And so we had a really good program, and the province just killed it. And one of my big concerns is, without seeing that money coming from the builders who are building these homes, I'm afraid it's just going to end up being profit in their pockets, and that our residents are going to end up paying higher property taxes to build these facilities that everybody's going to now need with that growth.
And this is the last question. Election interference. You're seeing that at the federal level. Obviously, we're seeing we're seeing that's being acknowledged. Provincially, we're just touching that. And really, the most impactful place in politics is the municipal level. And we're almost seeing some kind of rumors around Vancouver election interference, that kind of stuff, with different groups or folks. So how do you think the city of Coquitlam needs to be ready for managing, or at least be alert to this kind of challenge?
Yeah, and you know what? I haven't personally seen it at the municipal level. I think we have to be vigilant at all levels of government, because we have to protect our democracy. One of the things that I was really pleased about was it 2 elections ago, the provincial government brought in new rules around election financing, and I think that makes the reporting of where the money is coming from, how much you can receive, and from who you can receive it. I think that goes a long way into sort of eliminating some of that interference, because that way you can't just have money flood into a campaign, and I think that will certainly help to make a difference there.
Yeah, I think the big part, when I read it, I'm not an expert, it just seems like if you've got foreign influence with unlimited social media access to certain voters, there's no control of the money that you just mentioned. Yeah. I think the traditional model is, make sure that it's money coming from the right sources. Yeah. But this is almost like influence through other means of communication and media. Yeah. So anyway, I don't have the answer, but I'm just...
No, and I don't either. I hope that we never see that into municipal elections, and I would rely on the levels of government that have the tools to police it, investigate it, to do their job, and to be vigilant in it.
So at this point, you have received nothing from the federal government?
We haven't seen any direction or anything at our level.
To me, that seemed to be the logical next 2 steps. But thank you as always. I know we chatted before the election. We chatted now. And last time I said we should meet more, because the list is long. Yeah. But I thank you very much for the information and your insights. Again, congratulations on being re-elected. Yeah. And thank you very much for coming in.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to our residents.
That's great. Thank you very much, Councillor. That's Councillor Craig Hodge. He is re-elected at the City of Coquitlam. Councillor Hodge obviously can be found online. He's a very friendly and amiable person. So if you see him at any event, please grab him and say hi. And if you're nervous to say Patrick said, I could talk to you. But again, this is Patrick McCarthy reporting with Tri-Cities Community Television. Thank you for watching. We have issues. Thanks again.
Good. Thanks.